Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Once again, hello students, and I'm here with Alternative Centers of Economic and Political Power, chapter number 12, Political Science, class 12. And all about this chapter is Rise of China as an Economic Power, Creation and Expansion of European Union, and ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. In this chapter, we shall discuss the rise of China and the role of two important regional organizations, European Union and the Asian China, and these organizations have become alternative centers of power in recent times. Rise of China as an economic power. During the Second World War, there prevailed widespread unemployment, extreme poverty, and worst economic exploitation in China, and all her big industries and manufacturing houses were owned by foreigners. And Japan surrendered in August 1945, and thereafter a civil war broke out in China between the communist Mao's Red Army and the national government led by Chiang Kai-shek. By the end of 1949, all of the proper Chinese mainland was controlled by the communists, and the People's Republic of China was officially proclaimed on 1st October 1949. An important indicator of states' growing demand for influence on economy has been the change of legislation to make a compulsory to establish a Communist Party organization for its workers. The Chinese state-owned economy. Mao's government, like that of Soviet Union, brought all means and all instruments of production and distribution such as factories, banks and commercial establishments under the ownership of the state. And similarly, the state also took control of the railways, water transport, industrial units, and the agricultural land was distributed among the peasantry. And in the initial years, Chinese leaders laid great stress on industrial and technical development as well. And China was successful in giving food, clothing, shelter, and primary education to its people. The open door policy. It was a statement of principles initiated by the United States in 1899 and 1900, and it called for protection of equal privileges for all countries trading with China and for the support of Chinese territorial and administrative integrity. But the open door policy, should one country have right to dictate the action of another country? Let's see how. Some important and policy decisions in 1970s, modernization and the open door policy was like that. Although the developmental phase of economy continued due to heavy increase in population, China was not able to get rid of its backwardness. And because of people's growing needs and shortage of many kinds, Chinese leaders were forced to take many important policy decisions as well. On October 26, 1971, China was admitted in United Nations, and its political isolation had ended. Chinese leaders visited various countries and they signed agreements on cooperation in trade, science and technology. Here, if we compare it with India, India joined United Nations in 45 and it joined in 71, and 73 Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Enlai embarked upon a program of four modernization, agriculture, industry, armed forces, and science and technology. He said modernization would transform China into a powerful socialist country. Post Mao era, that means after the great leader Mao, what was the time period faced by China? The time period in China from 76, death of Chairman Mao Zedong, and 1989 is often known as Deng's China. In September 1976, after Chairman Mao Zedong's death, the People's Republic of China was left with no central authority figure, and either symbolically or administratively. Mao died in September 1976, and Chinese leaders felt it necessary to liberalize trade and investment in 1978, and China's powerful leader Deng Xiaoping announced a reformist and liberal policy. It was stated to be an open door policy, then called it China's second revolution. Privatization and a market economy. In what ways does the present Chinese economy differ from the command economy? Market economy slowly gained prominence in China, and the present Chinese economy differs from the state owned or the command economy in the following ways. Like market, what to produce, it was determined by consumers' preferences, and what to produce in command economy, it was like everything was determined by government. What to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. This is developed determined by government. And here in market, this is the command economy. And in market economy, what to produce with consumers preferences, how it was according to the producers profits, and for whom it was determined to purchasing parts. And here we have read that market economy slowly gained prominence in China, and the present Chinese economy differs from the state owned or the command economy in the following ways. Privatization of agriculture. Under the command economy, the peasants work on the collective fields in the same way as workers in the same way did in the factories, but the rural economy stagnated as a result of these measures. And therefore, collective farming was abolished, and peasants now become owners of their lands. As a result, there was an amazing increase in agricultural production. Because when people work as a free bird, like they were working as with authorized person, so that authority gave them freedom and the decision making also. So more deliberately they did their agriculture, and agriculture production was increased. Under the new economic policy, special economic zones were established in Shanghai and many other coastal towns where the foreign entrepreneurs had to freedom to set up factories and start industries. In order to promote foreign direct investment, industrialists were given many concessions. In the year 2005, China received 72.4 US billion dollars by way of foreign investment, and this brought huge profits to foreign investors, and it has also promoted China's economic growth. By the end of the year 2006, China had accumulated foreign exchange reserves exceeding $820 billion. China joined WTO in 2001. China finally became a member of WTO in 2001 and decided to open its economy to many new areas such as tourism, telecommunication, and in 2006 China announced heavy reductions in duties or the import of foreign cars. The Chinese dragons, that means the communist China, had been compared with a dragon, but today China has fashioned a new identity for itself. Therefore, China attracted a lot of foreign direct investment. And high-rise buildings and brand new foreign cars show that China has the world's fastest growing economy, and European markets are flooded with the Chinese goods. And China, with the Chinese goods in China, coastal city Shanghai competes the splendor with America's Chicago. Policies of economic development, macroeconomic stability, privatization, effective tax collection, investment in public services, development of manufacturing, foreign aid. Now, what was the result of all these new economic policies? Today, China has emerged as the world's largest producer of steel and cement, and China's share is more than 60% of the world's trade turnover. And in the year 2006, 80% of the world's consumer electronics were made in China. With a sustained growth of 9 to 10% of past many years, China stood with a 4 trillion US dollar economy in the year 2010. And foreign companies are paying heavy pay packets to the skilled workers and managers. As a result, a new class of affluent young professionals has emerged in China. And this led to great economic inequalities between urban and rural population, and between industrial coastal cities and regions with inland rural provinces. Because what happens when people are paid a good amount, they work with they work wholeheartedly. So when heavy pay packets were given to the skilled workers, they worked with more dedication, and the things were moving around in a positive way. Despite formidable growth rates in China, young people still faced unemployment problems. In 2010, 12% of the people were living in miserable poverty, as it is also the first populous country, densely populous country. So the government always try to show their level best to give best amenities and best opportunities to the citizens. But even then, unfortunately, 12% of people were facing miserable poverty. And yet, China remains a major global power. As recently as 2013, the President Xi Jinping stated that even with a 7.5 or 8% rate of growth, China could be become world's largest economy by the year 2020. And he also talked of many economic reforms in physical and financial fields, and including cutbacks in subsidies on electricity, gas, and water.